Hello everybody, and welcome back once again to Southern Fried Crime, the true crime channel with a country twist. If you're new here, please remember to like, subscribe, and click on the little bell icon to be notified when new videos post. Thank you for listening, and now on with today's case. Caleb Fairley was born October the 21st, 1973 in Gulf Mills, Pennsylvania. He was a very unhappy person who more often than not would spend time doing things such as playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is a fantasy game, or fantasizing about vampires. Caleb was the oldest of 5 children born to James, who was a pharmacist, and Ruth Fairley, who was a small business owner. I could not find any information about Caleb's relationship with his father. However, I did find information that Caleb didn't have a very good relationship with his mother, who was a very domineering woman and who liked to control the whole family. She was constantly calling Caleb stupid. She told him he couldn't do anything right and that he should just do the world a favor and go and kill himself. Tragedy struck the Fairley family in 1989 when Caleb was just 16 years old. David, who at age 4 was the youngest in the Fairley family, was playing with a loaded gun and accidentally shot himself in the head, killing him instantly. Caleb was supposed to be watching his brother, but instead he was once again playing Dungeons and Dragons. His mother blamed Caleb for David's death and never let him forget it. Caleb was bullied badly by other students when he was in high school. He was the perfect target to be picked on. He was a loner who kept to himself and would not fight back when other people picked on him. Caleb was an awkward boy that didn't have much experience with women. He did have one girl, Melissa Arcadia, that he went on a few dates with. She described him as a very smart individual, but someone with a lot of inner pain and turmoil. He was scared of women, which was probably caused by the poor relationship he had with his own mother. In 1992, there were several instances of sexual harassment leveled against Caleb when he was accused of grabbing several women on the buttocks. Caleb was ridiculed by his mother and tormented by his classmates, so it was really no wonder he preferred to be alone rather than with other people. He would stay in his room playing Dungeons and Dragons. Caleb also liked to dress up as a vampire. Caleb graduated from high school, and afterwards he briefly attended Westchester University, where he studied computer science. He didn't even complete one semester there. He dropped out of WCU and enrolled in Montgomery County Community College. He made good grades in his first semester there, but he didn't return for the fall semester, citing not having enough money as his reason for not coming back for the fall of 1995 semester. Lisa Marie Agustinelli was born September the 30th, 1965 in Norristown, Pennsylvania. She graduated from Norristown High School in 1983. She was tall, gorgeous, and skinny, with long flowing locks of black hair and a big white smile. In 1992, Lisa married a childhood friend, James Manderach. The young couple settled down in Limerick Township, Pennsylvania. They had one child, a daughter named Devon Marie, who was born February 4th, 1994. People who knew Lisa would describe her as a happy and upbeat person who was always looking for ways to make people smile. She was an extremely hard worker who worked driving a forklift for Fleming Company, which was a food distributor. She also worked weekends at a janitorial service with her husband James. Lisa also volunteered for Meals on Wheels, distributing meals to the elderly and disabled. But her greatest pride and joy was caring for her little girl Devon. And that's all the information I could find on Lisa and Devon. I wish I could have found more out, but there really just isn't a lot out there to find. And I hope to do them some justice with the rest of this video. Lisa thought that September the 10th, 1995 Seemed like a great day to do some shopping. James was parked in front of the television watching football, and there was a new children's store, Your Kids and Mine, that had recently opened in Collegeville, a town about 15 miles from where they were living. Lisa had heard about the store and was anxious to see what the store was all about. Roughly around 3 p.m., Lisa told James that she was going to check out this new store. She went to her car, a 1998 Pontiac Firebird, and placed little Devon inside the car in her car seat. This was the last time that James would see his wife and daughter alive. It got to be time for dinner, and Lisa still was not home yet with little Devon. He distinctly remembered Lisa telling him that she would be home soon because she did not want to be out for that long. He first called his brother and then his sister to ask what he should do. Both his brother and sister had told him not to overreact and that it was probably a good reason why she was late, and told him not to worry. James and Lisa had an extremely happy marriage, and there was no way Lisa would have taken off with little Devon. James called the police at roughly 9 p.m. that evening. The responding officer told him to check and see if anything was missing from the house, such as toiletries or clothing, but everything was just where it should be. The only things missing from the house were Lisa and Devon. James told police what had transpired that afternoon. He was watching football on TV while Lisa was going to take Devon to the new Your Kids and Mine store in the Collegeville shopping center. Police made their way to the shopping center, and sure enough, there sat Lisa's Pontiac Firebird. There were no signs of a struggle in or around the car, but there was something that James could not have known before he even called the police. Some hikers had found the body of a baby girl as they hiked in Valley Forge National Park in King of Prussia. To the hikers, as well as the police, it looked like the baby girl had been thrown from the car from the nearby road. James's brother, John, had the enviable task of going to identify the body of the baby girl. And to everyone's dismay, the body of the baby girl was that of little Devon Manderach. There were no hairs and fibers present on her, and if there were any, it was likely they came off her when she was thrown from the car. The husband is usually the first suspect in a case like this, and so it was that James Manderach became the first suspect in the death of his daughter and his missing wife. The lead detective in the case, Richard Piffall, was suspicious of James when he didn't want to go identify his daughter at the hospital. Lisa's family members jumped to James' defense and said there was no way that James would do anything to hurt Lisa or Devon. He was a devoted husband and father. In addition to that, the neighbors said that James's car had been parked in its place all day and had not moved, so that pretty much gave him an airtight alibi. If James was ruled out as a suspect, who could have possibly had a reason to hurt Lisa and Devon? Lisa was still missing. Where could she be? A massive search was done in and around Valley Forge National Park, but nothing was found. Detectives were canvassing the shopping center where Lisa's car was found. They were asking the store owners if they had seen anything, and they lucked out when they found a woman who had been in Your Kids and Mine. She said that she had bought some merchandise, and while she was looking in the store, she had seen Lisa and Devon, and they were looking through the clothing racks when she left. The police found out that the store was owned by a woman by the name of Ruth Fairley, which happened to be Caleb's mom. Ruth told police that Caleb was in the store working the afternoon when Lisa and Devon came in. The police called Caleb into the police station for an interview, for which he agreed to come in and be questioned. When Caleb got there, the police noticed that he was wearing heavily employee-applied makeup. They asked him to wipe the makeup off his face. When Caleb wiped the makeup off his face, the police saw that his face was covered in scratches. When police asked him what happened to his face, Caleb told the police that he had been to an Electric Hellfire Club concert at a place called the Asylum, and that while there he had gotten caught up in a mosh pit, and that is where he got the scratches all over his face. The police were not convinced by his story and thought that the scratches came from when he attacked Lisa Manderach. The police served Caleb with a search warrant for his bedroom, and they also served a search warrant on the Your Kids and Mine store. In Caleb's bedroom, they found a stash of vampire-related paraphernalia, and they also found violent, pornographic magazines, as well as a vampire t-shirt that had a woman in a violent pose. The woman on the t-shirt looked strikingly like Lisa, and they also found several pornographic videotapes stashed away at the store, and that peepholes had been installed in the dressing rooms. And behind the dressing room walls, they found there were semen stains all over the store that were consistent with Caleb. A witness came forward to say that they saw somebody inside vacuuming the Your Kids and Mine store just after closing. When the police inspected the vacuum, they found several long black hairs which were wrapped around the brush of the vacuum. The hairs were similar to looking what Lisa's hair looked like, but Lisa's body had not been found yet, so the police couldn't say whether or not the hairs in the vacuum did in fact belong to Lisa Manderach. Ultraviolet light was used to identify bodily fluids on the floor. UV can reveal hidden fluids which are not able to be seen by the naked eye. There was a decent-sized spot on the floor which ended up being the saliva of little Devon Manderach. There was also semen stains which were several feet from the saliva. The semen stains were a match to the DNA taken from Caleb Fairley. The semen stains really didn't prove anything, though. He could have just been some pervert who liked to look at porn, and that was how his semen was present in the store. Detectives told Caleb about all the evidence that they had found at the store and at his home. They were hoping that by letting him know what they had found, that perhaps Caleb would confess what really happened to Lisa and Devon. But what the police got was far better than a confession. Caleb told the police if they would not seek the death penalty, then he would lead them to Lisa's body. On September the 12th, 1995, Caleb led police to the body of Lisa Manderach. Her hands were bruised and bloody. Sure enough, Caleb Fairley's DNA was found under the fingernails of Lisa, and Lisa's hair was compared to the hair found in the vacuum cleaner, and it was found to be an exact match. Caleb's trial began on April the 10th, 1996. The charges that Caleb faced included 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and 1 count of abuse of a corpse. The jury was brought in from another county due to the publicity of the case in Montgomery County. The prosecution painted a picture of Caleb Fairley as a porn-addicted pervert who saw Lisa Manderach as fitting the physical description of the woman of his sexual fantasies. Castor described Lisa as the woman of Caleb's dreams. Prosecutors went on to describe what happened on Sunday, September the 10th. When Lisa and little Devon entered his mother's store, Lisa instantly caught Caleb's attention. Once it was just him, Lisa, and Devon alone inside, he snuck to the front door and locked it. Lisa and Devon were near the back of the store when he cornered Lisa. He knocked her down on the ground and tried to rape her, but she fought him with everything she had. She kicked, screamed, and scratched his face. Enraged at her resistance, he put his hands around her neck and strangled her, and then he did the same thing to little Devon. Frustrated that he was unable to carry out the rape, he then masturbated on Lisa's body, which explains the semen stains on the carpet. He then dragged the bodies out to his car, throwing little Devon's from the vehicle in Valley Forge National Park and posing Lisa in the woods behind the industrial estate. Thomas Egan, Caleb's court-appointed attorney, made it clear from the beginning that the jury was not there to decide whether his client was guilty of the murders, but whether he planned them. I will take away some of the mystery in this case. Mr. Fairley did commit those crimes, Egan proclaimed. He argued that his client was guilty of third-degree murder, not first-degree, because he did not mean to kill his victims. On September the 10th, 1995, that 22-year-old man put his pants and shirt on and went to work. He had no idea who Lisa and Devon Manderach were, Egan said, arguing against the idea that the murders were premeditated. If you're going to commit some kind of premeditated murder, you don't do so during store hours during back-to-school season at 4:15 in the afternoon, he added. Caleb did not testify during his trial. Egan claimed that his client was so blind with rage that he was not thinking clearly when he strangled his victims. Referencing some scientific studies, Egan explained that it can take as little as 10 to 15 seconds to strangle someone. Castor refuted this, claiming that it took Caleb much longer to strangle Lisa, citing the testimony of forensic pathologists who performed autopsies on Lisa and Devon. They said it takes at least 4 minutes to manually strangle someone to death, or even longer if the victim fights back, as Lisa did. Therefore, even if Caleb actually was out of his mind, he had plenty of time to come to his senses and stop strangling his victims, Castor argued. After 4 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for 3 hours before finding Caleb Fairley guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of abusing a corpse. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Explaining his decision to hand down the maximum sentence, Judge William Carpenter said that Caleb Fairley killed a toddler who was innocent, helpless, and incapable of defending herself. He referred to the terror that the killings had inflicted on the community, saying that people used to think that a mother and daughter could go shopping on a Sunday afternoon in Collegeville without being murdered. That's all for today's case. I'd like to hear what you guys think about this case. Do you think life without parole was a fair sentence? Personally, if it was me and he lived in the state where I do, I think he should have got the death penalty, because there's no way committing 2 murders like that he should get to live while those people died. Anyways, please remember to like and subscribe to Southern Fried Crime for more true crime content. That's all for now. Bye-bye.